Welcome to Bathrooms and Bunkers, powered by Lean Solutions Group. The Bathrooms and Bunkers podcast is dedicated to telling stories of excellence from incredible people around the globe. And today we're in Alexandria, Virginia, at the headquarters of the Transportation Intermediaries Association with their new CEO, Anne Reinke. Anne, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Trey, thanks so much for having me. And congratulations to Lean Solutions for being the latest Director Circle member of TIA. We're so happy to have you.
And we're excited too. I know Robert's thrilled to be in that group and to be able to contribute to the mission of TIA and the incredible work that you guys have done over the years for freight brokers and the transportation industry in general. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're excited. Your first board meeting will be May 11th.
Be sure Robert has that on the calendar.
That's right.
We'll
That's right. That'll be part of our Capital Ideas Conference.
Excellent. So I'm also excited here in your office to see this trophy. You may or may not know what this is in reference to, but this is the trophy for the golf tournament at the TIA Capitals conference every year, which we're unfortunately not having in person this year, but hopefully next year we'll get back out there.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited because my name's actually on the trophy. So it means a lot that you would put this in your office.
I know. It's almost as if I knew you were coming.
It is.
Thank you.
I hope it stays.
That's awesome.
I hope it stays in here long after we're gone.
Absolutely. We drink out of it. It's great.
Well, let's get started with our first segment, which is called Once Upon a Time. And I want to take the chance just to let you share about your story about growing up, and love to hear about your childhood, where you grew up, and just what that was like, because I know it was nearby.
Sure. So I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland. My parents are actually immigrants. They're from South Africa. And they immigrated basically in 1967 on and off. I moved to South Africa when I was 2 months old and moved back. But because of that, we were a very political kind of family. I grew up learning a lot about politics. I read The New Republic by the time I was 12 years old, which seems sickening when you think about it. But we just knew a lot about politics. We talked about it at the dinner table. And so that kind of piqued my interest in someday, somehow getting involved politically.
And with your parents being immigrants, I'm sure that you probably saw an incredible work ethic and some entrepreneurship. How did that impact your childhood growing up with parents that were immigrants?
Yeah, they were a huge, model exemplar to me, I guess. I feel like every kid hears from their parents, you're not living up to your potential, but it seemed like it resonated more because they'd already been through so much. And I had a fear of disappointing them. So I think I learned how to work hard. I hope I did. And make them proud too, because they did move to this country, not entirely for us, but they knew that would be the best sort of way of life for us for our futures.
Yeah, certainly giving you great opportunity. Did you grow up with siblings? Were you an only child?
Yeah, I had an older brother, and he used to torture me, but man, I thought he was funny. I really idolized him. He would stand over me, and he would let a drool kind of almost land on my face and then suck it back up. I don't know if you had brothers or sisters, but that's one of the things we had. But he was a wonderful brother.
We had an opposite experience. So I grew up with older sisters. So I was like being dressed up in orange tutus and, playing, I was Ken with Barbies all the time. So it was slightly different. But definitely torture.
Still torture.
But I thought it was fun.
Different kind of torture, right?
I was participating, so I thought it was actually fun.
Yeah,
so I totally get that.
That's
It
nice.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So tell me about, when you think of your childhood, what era of music do you really think of? What takes you right back to your childhood days?
Oh my gosh. So I'm glad you asked that question, because I would take a carpool when I was a kid, and the moms who would drive would listen to easy rock. So I grew up listening to a lot of light rock, 70s,
like Lionel
80s.
Richie, maybe?
Oh my God, lighter than that, lighter than Lionel Richie. I mean, I don't know if you know the song "Steal Away" by Robbie Dupree. Oh my gosh, so I feel like I am an expert in the light rock. I guess nowadays they call it yacht rock. That is what I think about when I think about my childhood.
So the late 70s, early 80s mix.
Yeah.
So your parents were kind of feeding you that vibe.
They really were.
What activities did you participate in as a kid? Were you in sports? Were you in music, drama? What did you do?
Yeah, so I thought I was going to be in musical theater. So I did a lot of that, and then I also played a little bit of tennis. I tried to be a well-rounded kid. I don't know if I was particularly good in anything, but in my mind, I felt like I was good at stuff, so that was good. And I got out there,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you grew up, it's about 2 hours from here, something like that, maybe an hour and a half drive?
No, yeah, it's like an hour. Mm-hmm.
Hour drive?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got the chance to drive around Alexandria, especially the old part of the town, which is just incredibly beautiful. What really attracted you to this part where you wanted to settle down and plant roots here?
Okay, so this is going to sound really I don't know if it's mercenary, but it really was based on traffic. The traffic in DC is awful. And certainly you may not have seen it so much because it was, during COVID, the traffic's obviously reduced. But traveling from Maryland to DC just took so long. So I thought, I got to move to Virginia. And the traffic from Virginia to DC is not that much. And I would work in DC. So that's really a bad answer, but that's kind of a true answer. It was really based on traffic. Well, but once I got here, what's nice about it is that Alexandria has an identity and it has pride. They have parades, obviously not during COVID, but they have parades where they celebrate their heritage. They celebrate George Washington. They celebrate St. Patrick's Day. There's just a really nice family feel, like we stand for something and that we have this history behind us.
And you also mentioned in some of our prep work about kind of an odd reenactment story.
Yes.
Share that with us.
So when we moved in 2009 to Alexandria, and it was during Snowmageddon. I don't know if you remember, but we had in the East Coast like 3 or 4 really big snowstorms. And so my husband and my son and I were walking around just looking at the snow. And we saw, this is literally the week after we moved, we saw this guy in colonial garb shoveling snow. And we thought, is this what happens in Alexandria? Are they that proud of their colonial heritage? It turns out it was a colonial reenactor, and it's not something that the city pays for, but it was a pretty cool experience.
That's their snowsuit. They just the colonial garb. They just put it on to go out to do the snow work. Exactly. That's a great story and a good memory, at least, of why you'd be here, which is cool.
Yeah.
So growing up as the youngest in your family, a lot of times, the younger people don't always sometimes rise to the level of leadership just because just birth order and things like that. But when did you kind of realize that you were a leader? You had that ability?
Well, I guess I realized I wasn't a follower first. I'm not a good follower. I think maybe that was where, and so if you're not a good follower, that means you feel like people should be following you. So I was argumentative and opinionated, and I felt like I sort of had my own thoughts about things. And I guess that translates into having your own sort of separate feeling of what should happen and how you should lead and how people should behave in a certain way. And that's sort of how I got started. My brother was 5 years older than me. So they say, I think if it's the age difference is older than 3, it's almost like you're raising 2 only children. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel that way, but I can see the argument for that because I did have a lot of time after he was already gone to school,
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. My nearest sister is 5 years older. And so by the time that I got to middle school, she was practically graduating high school. So I felt like I grew up as an only child as well.
Right.
So I'm sure that plays into it for sure.
Yeah, and I think that leads to a little bit of independence because you have to kind of rely on yourself. And at that point, I'm not saying my parents were exhausted of teaching me and being my parents. But, it was a different generation, too. There was not this sort of helicopter parents. They kind of left you alone and you kind of had to figure stuff out by yourself.
Yeah, I'm personally thankful that social media did not exist when we were growing up because we kind of made a lot of our own decisions.
Right, and it was not caught on
probably good that it was never caught for everybody to see forever. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of leadership, I wanted to touch on that just a little bit more. I think leadership starts out as, I'm a leader, people are following me, but then, leadership kind of changes as you get older. And I want to talk specifically about how did you find TIA? How did they find you? How did that whole thing happen?
Yes, so you're exactly right about leadership, which so much of it when you're growing up as an employee, it's like, look what I can do. And then when you start actually managing people and leading people, it's like, look what this team can do and how can I support them? So that has been really my approach with this team. I found TIA, I was at USDOT from 2019 to 2020, and I knew that an election was coming. We all did. I didn't have the inside information. So I thought, well, this election goes one of 2 ways. We didn't realize at the time how far it would go, but it was going one of 2 ways. I felt like it was going to go one way. I thought, I need to find a different opportunity. And I'm not a government gal. So I saw this ad that TIA put out, and I thought, this sounds great. These people seem really practical and solutions-oriented. And honestly, after being in policy for about a year and a half, like just in this sort of toxic political environment, I thought I really need to be with people who are pragmatic and are just trying to find solutions for customers. So that's what attracted me to TIA. And when I got here, I found a team that's been very sort of expert in this association, in the field, in the industry. And I thought, my gosh, I don't have to know everything. I have a team that really can help, and we can collaborate, and I can rely on them to show me exactly what needs to be done, the issues they've been working on, et cetera.
That's awesome. So I want to highlight on TIA just for a minute.
Sure.
Obviously, with a new CEO, new leadership, oftentimes comes new vision or kind of a slightly new direction. Where's TIA headed? What's the vision of TIA in the next 2, 3, 5 years?
Sure. So I hate that the pandemic brought the supply chain into stark relief, because we don't want to have a nationwide, worldwide pandemic to bring anything to stark relief, but it really brought attention to the supply chain and how critical it is to our economy. We have an opportunity to amplify that and really define who we are, because there are a heck of a lot of people who before 2020, before COVID, didn't really understand what a brokerage is, didn't understand what the 3PL industry meant. I think there are more people who do now. Now, certainly there's more education that we can do, but we have an opportunity to really define who we are. And who we are is bringing efficiencies to both shippers, right, and carriers, and essentially providing safe, efficient, ethical transportation for the nation's supply chain. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity both in advocacy and just building out membership.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't think people realized some of these things that go behind the scenes, the transportation industry in general, they don't realize where their toilet paper comes from.
Exactly, until they don't have any.
Until
right?
There's none there, exactly.
Right.
And they're like, wait, when's the truck going to show up? When are we going to get more toilet paper? So
right.
Yeah, I did bring about a highlight for that. And of course, you guys do great work advocating for freight brokers and training and those kind of things, which is great. Now, being in leadership in an organization like TIA and being influential, but also kind of managing, home life. You have 2 kids and your husband, and you guys, manage the home life. How is that balance between, being a leader at TIA and being a leader in your home and being a mom?
Well, so here's a great thing. First of all, TIA is 7 minutes away from my house. So what's fabulous is that I can actually go home and see my kids, and there's still daylight, which is amazing, because for years, I worked for CSX for 16 years downtown, and then I worked at DOT. I wouldn't get home until they'd already had dinner. So already I've just built in about 2 hours back into my day. And second of all, I think they've never known me other than someone who's been working, and I have 2 boys, and I think it's a great example for them to realize that they have a mom who works and who works hard. I remember my son when he was like 4, I was telling him that I had to call my team because we weren't going to be able to go into work because of the snow, et cetera. And I was saying, well, he said, who do you have to call? I have to call Steven. I've got to call. He said, you have a man who works for you? And I said, yes, I do. I absolutely do. And I think that's a great lesson. He was 5. He didn't really understand it. Now he's 12. Now he's going to get it, right? So
that's awesome. And you and your husband are celebrating 15 years.
That's
correct?
right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I think the longer
Thank
that we're celebrating 16 this year, the
yes,
longer that goes.
Congratulations.
You think it's a victory to really make it?
I agree, especially after last year, right? So much together time.
Everybody spent time together. That's correct. But no, it really is. It speaks volumes to your ability to balance everything really well, which is awesome. So I want to transition to a segment called Difference Makers, and here I want to ask you about the people who have made such a difference for you. Like, who's had the biggest impact? When you think back to those mentors and people that helped you get where you are today, who really stands out?
Well, I had a colleague at CSX named Pete Schutz who had so many sayings. He had a little pamphlet made for him because he had so many sayings that were well known within the company. And he celebrated, I think, 40 years. He ultimately ended up 40 years with CSX. So he'd been there and seen everything. And because he'd seen everything, he would impart lessons to me, which I really took to heart. His first lesson was, and this doesn't sound nice, but you get the spirit in which it's delivered. He said, if you don't like what's going on during the day, go home and kick the dog. So what does that mean to you? To me, it meant people are only so interested in how many complaints you have about what you're doing. Quite frankly, it's probably better that you just let off steam at home and just keep doing your job, right? And I think that's true. Sometimes work it's not great. Sometimes it's great, but your colleagues are not necessarily there to give you a pity party, right? Even if you feel like it is. The other lesson he told me was that there are many mansions. And his thought behind that was, let's say you get passed over for a promotion. Maybe that's not supposed to be where you end up. Maybe you're supposed to be going in a different direction. And you can find happiness there. You can find happiness in this other mansion. It doesn't have to be the one you thought you were going to end up in. So I appreciated his lessons.
Yeah, and for all the dog lovers out there, it's strictly a metaphor.
These are metaphorical.
Strictly a metaphor. Yeah. We're not kicking dogs.
I don't have a dog to kick, but no, I wouldn't kick a dog. Yes.
No, that's great. So it's great to have the mentors in your life. that pass on that kind of advice. What's an experience though that really rocked your world and helped you become a better leader?
Sure. So we at CSX had a pretty turbulent 2017. There was a new CEO installed. The executive team was all kind of let go, I guess is a nice way of putting it. It was just a very turbulent time. And so I was the head of our department, and I had to really reassure the team. Meanwhile, I had to furlough 2 people. I had to reassure the team by basically not lying to them. So by that I mean, I couldn't say, everything's fine, it's all going to be great, because that was disingenuous. I didn't know what was going to happen. And so what I would say is, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. I'm going to do as much as I can to support you and advocate for you and for this department, because it was critical. I led the government affairs team over there. And, I think every company needs a government affairs team, but CSX at the time absolutely does, because it's a heavily regulated industry, the railroad industry. So having that authenticity, I guess, is a way of saying it, which is that I don't know everything, but I'm here to support you, and I'll fight for you if I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've had great mentors. You've obviously had several experiences that have helped shape your leadership abilities. And then it's always important as leaders to pass this on. So how do you approach that in terms of having a mentor still, having people who are pouring into you, and also turning around and pouring into other people the lessons that you've learned?
Sure. So I guess I can speak to how I try to help people first. I have a lot of people who say, can you just talk to my kid? Or I don't know what I'm doing next. Can I just call you up? And I don't think I've ever said no. And I'm not trying to say I'm a hero or anything like that. But what that I mean is, I don't know if I can help them. I don't know what kind of help they need. But if I can just have a conversation where it triggers something in their minds, or it's sometimes just helpful to talk things out. I feel like that's the least I can do to give back, because I was there once where I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. And I met a bunch of people, and I really appreciated it. And I've had mentors who've taught me other lessons. Like I had a guy who was the head of the Association of American Railroads, Ed Hamburger, who is sort of similar, which is you should always meet with people. It doesn't matter if you don't like them. It doesn't matter if they have positions that are contrary to what you believe, in your work or professional life. You got to meet them. Be an adult, be a grown-up, and meet with them, because you never know what can come out of it.
Yeah, I've heard something similar. Never pass up a meeting. Just never pass up a meeting. You never know what's going to come out of it. You never know. For you, for somebody else. So a good piece of advice in that. What is one piece of advice or one lesson that you always try to pass on to people? It seems like it keeps coming back up that's just really been valuable for you to pass on. Well,
I think this is something I came to more recently than anything else. And I call it the go for the gold style of parking. So this is my metaphor. So there are 2 kinds of people. There are people who go find a parking spot right up close to the door, right? They're like, I'm just going to go right to the door. And then there are people who park 2 miles away, like, well, this is fine. I, for many years, was in the this is fine kind of mode where I'm not going to push myself forward. I'm scared I'll get rejected. I don't know. I'm probably not experienced enough. And so instead of somebody saying no to me, I was saying no to myself. And I think that's the worst advice you could do, is let somebody say no to you. At least offer up yourself. And you never know, again, you may not get the job, or you may not get the guy, or you may not get whatever it is, but at least you will have tried.
Yeah, the answer is always no if you don't even ask.
Exactly.
It's always no. So that's great advice. Okay, so now I want to transition to a segment we call Secret Sauce. And this is the things that you're doing that really help you be successful. It could be habits or whatever it is. What are a few things that you do that just really help you be successful?
Well, Trey, you and I went running this morning in the cold, driving rain. It was very impressive. I don't always go running in the cold, driving rain, but I do like to run and to work out. And one of the reasons why, not only because it's good for you and all that stuff, but I find sometimes that things occur to me when I'm running because your mind is sort of relaxed and you're not focused necessarily on something specific. And to me, problems that I've been stewing over and that I don't quite know how to resolve yet, they can come to me. The answers can come to me when I'm running. And I think all of us need to have that moment, whether it's in the shower or whether it's on a run or whatever. And this is what happens to work for me. And I think sometimes people make a mistake of reacting too quickly. Sometimes that's not the right answer, in the first answer. Sometimes you just got to let it marinate and figure it out and trust yourself that it will come to you.
Yeah, and you get the benefit of the exercise.
You get the benefit of the
because like I
exercise.
tend to think in the shower, and it doesn't really do much from a physical standpoint. So that's great. So how did you get into running? Like, when did that become a part of your routine or just a part of your life?
Yeah. So my 5-year-old, by the way, he always likes to say that he's faster than he thinks than a cheetah. So I think when I was his age, I felt the same way. Like, I am super fast. I don't know how fast I was, but I did feel like I was fast. And I enjoyed it. I wasn't particularly coordinated. I could, play tennis okay. I was okay at stuff. But with running, I felt like I can go fast. Now, I couldn't necessarily sustain my pace, but I could go fast for short spurts. So I started running cross country in high school. I ended up being the captain of the cross country team. And I was like an inspirational leader as opposed to the athletically skilled leader. I was really supportive of the team as they really beat me. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the freedom. I enjoyed the quiet because I'm not a quiet person. And so I felt like this is something that keeps me centered in all of that. And so I've just kept running since.
We have a lot in common. I ran cross country in high school. Yeah. I hated every minute of it. Yeah. I had to run because I had to have a sport every season, and I wasn't a football player. I wasn't a soccer player, so I ran cross country. Hated every minute of it, but I totally get what you say. Like, it teaches you a lot about perseverance. You learn to run even when you're just completely exhausted.
Right.
There's a fun team component too. But I do run now. But again, at that time, I absolutely hated it. Maybe you enjoyed it more than I did.
No, I don't think so. I just remember my first race. So it was a 5K because that's what you typically run, as you know. And I went out really fast. And I was like, oh my God, I am crushing it. And then I didn't realize after mile 2, I can't sustain this. And I came in dead last. So, lesson learned, going out too fast, you got to pace yourself, all of that stuff. So it was good.
I think just about all of us that ran cross country did the same thing.
Yeah, did the same thing,
I made the
right?
same mistake one time. I'm going out with the leaders. I'm gonna, and I had my all-time best first mile, followed by some of my worst miles.
It was like a 4-minute mile.
5:30. It was like one of my best.
That's impressive.
But then it went way down.
Yeah, then you're 15 minutes.
My finish time in that race was the same as all the other ones, which is how bad those last few miles were. It just got really, really bad. So, yeah, it's a good lesson.
That's funny.
Do you run races now? Do you?
I do. I run an annual turkey trot. It's a 5-miler, which I think is pretty big for a turkey trot, right, on Thanksgiving. And I try to do it in under 45, which I have been. I do, because of COVID, we bought our son a trampoline, and I got trampoline knee. So I'm probably not going to be running races from now on because my knee got all banged up. But I do like that turkey trot.
5 miles is a legit turkey trot.
That's a legit
that
turkey
is legit.
trot. That's not
3 miles is
1-miler.
Yeah,
right?
5 miles is legit. You have to get after that.
Yeah, you get after it.
I did that a couple years ago. My wife signed us up, and it was bad. It was a bad move all around. So
no one should have done it.
No, I wrote a blog about it. It was so bad.
Really? I'll have to look it up.
I'll have to get that to you. It's okay. I got passed by old ladies who were looking at me like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you out here?" So it was a bad experience all around. True story. All right, so obviously taking care of yourself, making sure that you have something to give to your team is really critical, and you do that through running and through other means. How do you approach leadership with this team in particular? What's your mindset? What are you trying to help them accomplish?
Sure. So before I started at TIA, I read this book called Humble Leadership. I can't remember the name of the author. I'm sure you probably know it. But his whole emphasis in the book was that you shouldn't try to be the hero, that you need to, A, rely on your team, B, use your team, C, collaborate with your team, and approach them as sort of the experts they are in their individual areas. And basically, the whole point of it is that the hero-style leadership, I think, is sort of a passé thing in some respects because we don't know all the answers, and really the collaborative approach makes more sense. I read it, and I read it with such a sense of relief because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to know everything. I'm not going to have the answers, but I do have people here, Cindy Amos, who's been here for years, Chris Burrows, who's been here for years, Polly Bond, who's been here for years, Jessica Mazzell, who's been here back and forth for years. All of these people know the members, the industry, the highs and lows of the association. These are the people I need to call upon and assist. And however I can help their development, if they have had some experiences in the past where they don't feel like they've been able to have empowerment one exercise we did right away was I said, I want you all involved in the 2021 budget cycle, because they had never been involved before, which seemed bizarre to me, but I thought, here's a way for me to benefit from what they know and for them to benefit from being part of this experience. And I found those kinds of things incredibly beneficial for all of us.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the trap of leadership is you feel like you have to know it all.
Right.
But I always fall back on, like what Steve Jobs said, that they don't hire people to tell them what to do. They hire smart people to tell him what to do.
That's exactly right.
Which is so good. And so I think that makes a lot of sense for what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Plus, Chris Bro's name is on this trophy.
Well, he's a great golfer, as are you.
He's, so he's also...
We got to keep him around.
That's right. So we're going to transition to a segment called the Quick 10.
Okay.
These are 10 questions that you have not heard.
Okay.
So just want to give your first, whatever comes to mind first, go and throw that out. Are you a night person or are you a morning person?
Morning person.
Morning person. How early?
7 a.m. It's not, but I wake up earlier with an alarm, but 7 a.m. for sure.
Okay, but not like the 4:30, 5 o'clock crowd. That's like crazy.
Well,
morning
I do wake up then, but then I try to go back to sleep.
That's
that's an old person
Those
thing,
people are more productive. I get it, but that's not where we're headed. Yeah, not good. Okay, what is your go-to flavor at Baskin-Robbins?
Gosh, that's a great question. I feel like it's probably chocolate peanut butter or cookie dough. Gosh, that's tough.
Chocolate peanut butter is the way. That's probably my favorite combination for ice cream is chocolate
Right?
peanut butter. Tillamook. Have you ever had Tillamook ice cream?
I'm gonna.
It's out in Oregon.
I've had Tillamook, but I haven't had that flavor. Do they make chocolate peanut butter?
They make the chocolate peanut butter. It's the best one.
I need to put this down.
You should definitely check it out for sure. How many? Have you run any marathons?
I've run 2 half marathons, so 1 full.
That counts.
Counts, right?
2 half marathons. Would you ever run a full?
No.
Yeah, that's a long ways. I ran 2 half marathons as well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I will never run a full either.
Yeah,
We have
what's
so
the
much in
point?
common. I
Right?
know, this is
I
great.
know.
Okay, what is your favorite museum or a monument here in DC?
I guess the Natural History Museum, Natural History Museum, because my kids love it, and they have this butterfly exhibit where you can go in, this kind of like, I don't know if it's like a greenhouse, basically you go in and the little butterflies land on you and they're eating rotten fruit and stuff. It's really cute when a butterfly lands on your little kid. It's very
Hopefully
sweet.
not with the rotten fruit
Not with
in the
rotten
mouth.
fruit.
Hopefully done with that. So, in your mind, what's the best movie franchise, movie trilogy that you've ever watched?
Gosh, I don't know. That's really tough. I guess Star Wars? I don't know. I'm not even a Star Wars person, but I know I saw all 3 of the first ones.
I'm slightly disappointed that you didn't go Back to the Future. That's like from our childhood. That's
I know.
legit.
Back to the Future was good.
And then there's some good ones as well out there. But okay, so
Sorry.
we'll go Star. I mean, nobody's going to like object to
Yeah,
Star Wars.
they can't object to
That's-
Star Wars. The
there's-
Ewoks, for God's sakes.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's a good answer. Okay, question 5. Would you rather go on a road trip or would you rather fly to a vacation destination?
I guess fly to a destination.
Anyone in particular?
Well, I've been to St. John's twice now, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I would love to go back.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
It's a good spot, right?
I've been there as well. That is a good spot.
Yeah, it's 75% or 80% National Park Service land, and so there's just not a lot of buildup, and it's
Beaches are tremendous.
Beaches are beautiful.
Yeah,
it's not super
nice.
crowded.
The weather's always good.
The weather's good except for the hurricanes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. We'll stay away from those, but the weather's really good on that.
Yeah.
All right, that leads me to this. What's one item on your bucket list?
I want to go to Greece. I've never been to Greece. Don't you see those pictures with like the stark white architecture of the buildings contrasting to the Aegean Sea? And you're thinking, or is it the Mediterranean? Both. It's both.
I think they're both. We'll say both.
Yeah, we'll say that. Doesn't that just strike you as something that you'd love to just experience with the sunshine and the food? And it just seems relaxed. That's
Sounds like you've thought of it for sure.
I've definitely thought of it. I would love to go.
I wouldn't mind doing that, but
Yeah.
that's awesome. It's on the bucket list.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, question 7. What is your favorite quote?
What is my favorite quote? Ooh, golly. This is going to be a real tough one. I told you about kicking the dog, right? That's not a good one, is it?
I don't know if I'd go favorite on that.
I don't know. I really have to think about it.
Could be something as simple as like, oh, the places you'll go, Dr. Seuss, which is,
Oh, that's cute.
I know.
Yeah,
I got an award one time. It was the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, with like my name on it.
Yeah.
So we'll just go that one. You can have
Okay, well, how about this? When my husband and I got married, I said a quote that I remembered in my speech. I made a speech because, I'm kind of a feminist here in that way. Like, I felt like I should make a speech. So there's this quote I use that said, I saw you from across the room. You looked at me and knew. It just brings me to tears. Doesn't that just make you feel so, like, isn't that gorgeous? Like, knowing. Oh, I'm going to tear up.
That's awesome. All right, so one a little bit lighter.
Okay.
What's the best book you've read on leadership?
Oh, okay. So I won't tear up about this. So I just finished Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. And it's sort of similar to what I said about humble leadership, meaning you really, when you're a leader, it's not about you anymore. It's about team and protecting them and making sure that they know that you trust them so that they can trust you. And the foundation of all of that, of the morale of your team, really starts with that. And he used a lot of examples from the military in particular, and that's where the title comes from, Leaders Eat Last. So the United States Marines, you'll notice when you're visiting with them that the highest rank gets their food last and sits at the table because they know how important it is to the team to go ahead and get fed first.
That's it. I didn't actually know that, but that's good. And I love Simon's work. He's got a lot of good stuff out there. Although, do all of his books, are they 3-word titles?
I don't know the answer to that.
Leaders Eat Last. There's a couple more out there,
Yeah,
but I'm not curious. Maybe somebody can let us know about that one way or the other.
Let's do a blog about it.
Okay. Question 9.
Okay.
Would you rather shop online or go into the store?
Oof. Well, you mean COVID aside?
COVID aside.
COVID aside.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't mind shopping that much, but I mean, as you get older, the joy of it has gone out, right? It's a lot more efficient to do online. You just don't have the time necessarily to luxuriate in a shopping experience. So
yeah, and it used to be you wanted to touch things or whatnot, but now you can just send stuff back if you don't like it. It made it so easy.
Free shipping, free returns.
It makes it super easy. Okay, last question. You're almost done. So not including DC, Alexandria, and Bethesda, the areas right around here. What other U.S. city is your favorite city to visit?
Well, I went to Rice University, and I love Houston. I know that is not a widely shared view, but I love Houston. I think it is so fun. The restaurant scene is awesome. And yeah, sure, the traffic is bad. And sure, it is so humid, you cannot even believe it. But I just find it such a fun, exciting city. So I love Houston. And then whenever I go to California, I'm not a huge fan of California, like as an entity, but you go to someplace in California, like my husband lived in Hermosa Beach for a little bit when we were dating long distance, and I would visit him, and you think, oh my God, why do I live like a dog in the East Coast? Look at this place. This place is awesome. I mean, you can't sustain a life out there, but you know what I mean? It's just gorgeous, and the ocean is there, and people seem relaxed, and they're beautiful. Yeah, so those are my 2 favorites.
That's awesome. And we're kind of on the negative dog train here, I
can
tell.
Right, the poor
You're
dogs.
definitely not a dog owner, because that's 2 now. Two strikes against the dog.
I know, my kids want a dog. Maybe we shouldn't get one.
Well, you made it through. That was the quick 10, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We're going to go to our final segment, which is the next chapter.
Okay.
And here I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what are you trying to accomplish in the next 5-10 years of your career, being with TIA, your family. What are you reaching for?
Okay, so... we met with our accountant a couple weeks ago because, it's tax season. Although we're getting a month reprieve, I saw that. But anyway, and so he was doing some, forecasting for us. And he's like, well, we probably want you to both retire when you're 67. So that means I'm working now for at least another 19 years, which seems unbelievable to me. But in that time, a lot of stuff is going to happen. For my hopes for TIA is that we grow the membership, that we really continue to be and even amplify the resource we are to small upstarts and then huge members as well, and everyone in between. And I think we do provide solutions for all of those ranges of memberships, and I hope we continue to do that, and I hope our value continues to grow, and I think it will. I think by amplifying our advocacy, by amplifying our message about who we are, I think we will bring people into the fold. So I'm excited about that. For my family, I would like all of my family, including myself, to be well-rounded and curious. I keep joking with my son, who plays a lot of video games, the older one. And I say, why don't you go out and figure out how to light a fire, put some, or do some welding or something? But it sounds stupid, but I really want him, and I want me, and I want my little one, and I want my husband, just to figure out, the world is such a huge place. We don't have to be relegated to just watching TV or going to work. There's so many amazing things to do out there. So I hope I can instill that in them, a curiosity, but also a neighborliness and a kindness to others. Our family and our neighborhood is a very tight-knit, it's very close. We all sort of know each other. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity to strengthen your muscles of giving to others without really hoping to return, just by, so for example, a neighbor down the street, she decided for St. Patrick's Day just to give every one of her friends some St. Patrick's Day cookies. I mean, there's no reason for that, but it's just a nice thing. So, replicating that, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then certainly in sort of seeing this big world, I'd encourage you to get an RV someday.
Okay.
Enjoy that. It's a great way to see things that you don't see.
I've heard that you like the RV scene.
We do. You see the world differently when you're driving, as opposed to flying to it and just enjoying it. You see countryside and pastures and little homes and barns and things that you just normally would miss.
Right.
So it's just a really cool way to see the world. But that's great.
And you're going to an RV trip this summer, aren't you?
We are. Yeah, we're doing the East Coast. We're actually coming back here,
nice.
So that our daughters can see the Smithsonian's and you see the history where it happened.
Hopefully they'll
be open.
Yep.
We wanted to show them history where it happened. That was
right.
kind of our vision, our goal for them. So absolutely. So you should definitely do that. And as far as TIA, it's in the time we're in now with COVID and the pandemic, the disruption that has occurred has given organizations like TA and others out there the chance to pivot and really become something even more special than they already are. Because the needs are changing. The work from home is changing. Sure. All those things change. So you guys have a great opportunity, and it's going to be exciting to see where you guys go with that.
Well, I appreciate that, and then having you guys as part of, for example, our Lunch and Learns, which was completely an output from COVID, because we were able to transfer a lot of the stuff that we had in last year's Capital Ideas Conference, which ended up getting canceled, into online platforming. And now it's become so popular, and you guys actually had a Lunch and Learn this past week, that it's become a permanent structure, and people really respond to it because it's like a 45-minute thing where you learn a little bit about the business or a particular aspect of the business, and then you can do it while you're eating your lunch at your desk, since that's what we all are doing these days. So, I'm sure there will be other things like that.
There's definitely been a newfound convenience with webinars and with opportunities to have, virtual events. I know a lot of people are looking forward to getting back in person.
For sure.
But that's a great way to do that. And we're honored to obviously be a part of that. Thank you for letting us do that.
Yes.
It's been a great way to actually expose potential clients or whoever to some of the experts that we have in our organization. I know other organizations are doing the same thing. So it's a great way to expand that and just let people see more about our company. So we appreciate that.
Good. I'm glad.
So how can people find you? How can they follow you and find out what's going on with TA?
Sure. Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I think you just look up my name on LinkedIn, probably. I hashtagged for the first time this week on LinkedIn. I was so proud of myself. I know. It's like those ads are like, am I hashtagging? And then you can always email me at reinke@tianet.org.
Cool. We'll put that in the notes. But again, thank you so much for being on the Bathrooms and Bunkers podcast. It was great to talk to you. And again, just best wishes.
Great to talk to you, Trey. Thanks for running with me this morning.
Yeah. Don't ask me to do that again. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining the Bathrooms and Bunkers podcast powered by Lean Solutions Group. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all social media platforms. And come back for the next episode. And remember, excellence is in you. So let it out.